Yes, our Web API controller can easily support all of the rest of our CRUD operations, right? I just did Control-MO to shrink everything down. So these are all the versions of GET. Now, I did modify the basic GET request to allow the filtering. If you want to do the same with the included version, I'll let you make that change yourself, okay? But down here, we have our put, we have our post, and we have our delete, okay? So remember, put is like an update, post is an insert, and delete is self-explanatory, right? Now, again, these are set up for doctor, right? So what I'm going to do, let me actually just expand them. Let me put a proper code in place, and we'll just kind of walk through it. I think that's the best thing we could do here. So let me just grab my put. Okay. All right. So notice that it's a Dr. DTO, right? So we do get the ID because we're updating, okay? And then we're going to update the Dr. DTO, right? So we just check that we actually have it. Otherwise, we send a bad request, incorrect ID for the doctor. We can do a check on the model state, right? Yes, remember I did say earlier that we added some annotations here, right? So if we violate any of the rules we're enforcing here, that will come back in terms of feedback in terms of the model state. And then we can just send a bad request, including the model state, and we'll have a chance to see what that looks like, okay? How it gets serialized into JSON and then gives very specific feedback that we can read out of the payload and then get up on the screen to the user in our client application, right? So we go get our doctor to update from the database, right? So this is the one that came in. So we get the actual doctor, right, from the database, making, of course, we actually found it. Otherwise, we'll say not found, doctor record not found. Maybe somebody deleted it, who knows, right? Then we're going to update the properties of the entity object from the DTO object, right? So I could write it this way initially, and then mapping generator would offer to fix it for me, and this is the code you end up getting, right? Just copying over the ID, first, middle, and last name from the DTO that was passed up from the client into the one that is actually being monitored by the change tracker from the database. So that's why when we call save changes, it just immediately saves this new version, right? And then just return just says, hey, we're happy, that's a good, we'll get a status code of 204, which is fine, right? No problem whatsoever. There might be a concurrency exception, okay? We don't actually have a row version in my example here in the doctor, but if we did, we'd probably add a little bit more code here, but this would handle it. Doctor's been updated by another user or been removed, whatever the case is, right? Okay, so that will take care of my update, right? I think I'll just put the code in place for both of the next two together. There we go. So our post is like our insert, right? So basically, we pass up a Dr. DTO. Now, of course, it's going to come in JSON, and it'll get materialized into our object by the system itself. So it's just a post, and in the payload, it will have the JSON for the Dr. DTO, I should say, right? So once more, we can check any validation error messages. We could, in some cases, have I-validatable object and things like that as well, right? Just a bad request returning the model state and all the errors that would come from that built-in system, right? Then we actually new up a new doctor, okay? Pulling, of course, the values from our Dr. DTO that was passed up. And again, if you leave these curly braces blank, you can actually use the mapping generator to help you write the code, right? Not very much in this case, though. It's only 3 properties. All right, then we try, okay, we add the doctor to the context, and we call save changes, right? Good practice is we assign the generated ID, the one that's the identity or database generated value, back into the DTO, right? Because what we do is we return, okay, that Dr. DTO, right? So that gets sent back down to the client. If there's an update exception, okay, we'll just say unable to save changes. There's nothing I can imagine that wasn't a validation error caught already. So unable to save changes, try again, and away you go. All right, so the delete process, pretty straightforward. We pass the ID, right, of the doctor to delete. This is the only one that has no reference, no mention whatsoever of the DTO objects, right? We're basically said, hey, this is the ID of the doctor, go ahead and delete it, right? So it's pretty much standard approach. We go and we find that doctor object, okay? If it's not there, somebody else has deleted in the meantime, it's already been removed, right? we do our remove, save changes, and then again just return our status code 204, right? If there's an exception, okay, maybe the foreign key constraint failed, okay, can't delete a doctor that has patients assigned, right, or just a general one, unable to delete the doctor, and away you go. And that completes our Web API controller. All right, so if I ran it now, it's very, very difficult for me to try and demonstrate to you, okay, the rest of these CRUD operations, the insert, update, delete, so to speak, right? So how am I going to do that? Well, I mean, I could take time, build an entire Web API or Maui client or some other client to connect to it and try to show you that. But fortunately for us, there's a nice open source tool that we can take advantage of that gives, even though Web API technically has no interface, it gives you a workable interface that you can use for testing and diagnosing what's going on inside your Web API. And it's called Swagger, right? So I'm going to install a package now, once more down to our NuGet package manager. And the install command is install package. Let me bring it up on the screen a little more. Swashbuckle ASP.NET Core. All right, so now that's in place, okay? That's good. We have the NuGet installed, but we have to do a little bit of work once more in program.cs to fully get things ready, right? Okay, so we've added our controllers. That's good. We added our endpoints. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to add Swagger Gen, okay, in the builder, right? Before we actually build, we'll add Swagger Gen, okay? And now it's up to you. Quite often what's done, you see we have an if here. If we're in the development environment, right, then certain things only make sense normally to do with that. So let me just come in here, add what I would normally put in if I'm just working in my own environment, right? I'm going to use Swagger and the Swagger UI, okay, and add that Swagger endpoint. So that gives me the UI as long as I'm running in development mode. And that's really all I have to do. Oh, no, there's one more thing. Okay, down here, I'm going to use authorization, HTTP redirection. Okay, map controllers. Oh. Okay, maps the Web API controllers. All right, and that's all I really have to add in order to have it work. But there is something optional. The trouble is, Swagger will actually, at this point, possibly even show me my MVC controllers. Well, I don't want to see that. I want to filter, so I only see Web API controllers, right? So let me go back up here earlier on, right, where I did my add Swagger Gen, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to use some code to filter so I only include in this Swagger generated interface the actual Web API controllers, right? So that's what this extra bit of code is doing, okay? And that is basically all I have to do. Now I'm ready to use Swagger. Oh, one more thing though. I put this code in here that checks if I'm in development environment. If I want my Swagger to be available, even say after I publish up to Azure, right? Well, Azure, once I get it up there, is no longer in development as a development environment. Two things I could do. I could go into my settings in Azure and say that it's in a development environment, right? Is development as set as the ASP.NET environment, and that would allow the code to run even up there. Or I could just do this. I could take it out of here and put it down here, right? That way it's always going to be running Swagger even if I'm in a production environment, right? Okay, anyway, let me just run it and we'll see how this Swagger actually works and how it makes it possible for us to actually do some investigation of the functionality of our interface itself. Okay, so are we up and running? Nope, there we go. All right. So what I do to get Swagger going, like I can still go /API/doctors. That's working fine, right? No problem. But if I go Swagger, here's the Swagger interface, okay? And we only see this. This is all coming from our one web API controller that we have. So I can try out, here's our get for API/doctors. Oh, notice because I added that search, I can click, I can't type there yet. I have to click try it out. Now, if I don't put anything in search and just execute, then I get all of my doctors, right? There they all are, okay? Right down to number 27, right? Every doctor is in here. Okay. And what else do we see? Well, we get some detail as well on here in terms of the status code and so on and so forth, right? Okay, that's good. Now, if I do want to try, let me try that letter T again. Okay, and now I'm filtering, and you can see the actual request that was sent, okay, and so on and so forth, and the results. So only the ones that have a T, so I've got a reduced number of doctors here as well, and away we go. So that's fully functional. Good. All right. Let me just show, here is one where we're just going to get the doctor identified by ID. Now I have to provide the ID. Click try it out. Let's try ID number 2. Okay, click execute, right? So here we are. So here is Dr. ID 2, Doogie Howser. I can just copy that. Let me come back up here. Let's try a put. A put is an update, remember? Right, so I'll try it out. ID is 2, right? And I will replace that JSON with my own. So ID is 2, Doogie Howser. I'm going to change the last name to Stovell. We'll click execute. And what do we get? All right. Okay, we got a 204, okay, which is a success status code, right? And let's just try it out now. Let me come back to my get for the one doctor. Notice it still has the same value in it as I did last time. This is from running it earlier. So I can just execute again, and look at that. So we can see that I did successfully update, okay, that particular record. Yay, right? Why don't we try post, which is, of course, an insert, right? So I'll click try it out. And I'll just replace all this. Okay, now I don't have to. I can provide an ID, but it's going to ignore it anyway. So I can just take it right out, right? Doogie R. Howser. Well, let me actually show you something. If I take the first name out, we know that's required, right? So what happens if I execute now? Look at this. We got our bad request. Remember in our controller, we said we return a bad request, and in brackets, we put the feedback from the model, okay, the model state. Well, here is how the model state gets put into JSON. One or more validation errors occurred. You cannot leave the first name blank, right? So it's a nice hierarchical JSON payload. So we can easily, on the client side, read this and put up a nice little message box to the user saying, hey, we did not successfully insert your record. You cannot leave the first name blank, whatever, right? Okay, good. Now, if I do actually put something in here, pardon me, ZZZZ, execute, okay? This time I got a 201, and here, remember we set it up so it would return the new copy of the record, and it pulled, assigned back in the actual database generated ID value, right? So there it is. Okay, so that's good. So ID is 28. I know that now. So if I come back down here, let's, for fun, do the include version. 28. Execute. And there we go. All right, so we've included the patient's collection. Oh, but it's empty. Well, that makes sense that ZZZ Howser, okay, has no patients assigned. Well, that's okay. Let's go into patients. I'm going to edit somebody. Howser ZZZ, save, right? Come back to Swagger. And let's execute again. There we go. And so we see the change we made in our MVC controller. Now look at that, okay? Here is my same doctor, ZZZ Hauser, and we see that the patient was added, okay, to the collection of patients that are looked after by this particular primary care physician. All right. Now, of course, if I want to delete, let's just finally demonstrate that, make sure that functionality is working. So I'll come to delete, try it out. 28, I think it was, right? And we'll execute. And there we go. Oh, you cannot delete a doc that has patients assigned. Isn't that amazing? Of course, of course. There we go. All right, so let's go back in and we'll reassign to a different doctor. Coming over here, I can try my execute again. And there we go. All right. So I got a 404 and we successfully deleted that doctor. So if I go back one last time, let's go and get the doctor. Whether I include or not, doesn't matter, okay? And there we go, not found, okay? That doctor was not found in the database. Perfect. So now we've fully been able to demonstrate the ability to do all our different kinds of selects, including or not, okay? Filtering even on the name, and we've established that we can successfully put, post, and delete, okay, for our insert, update, and delete operations. There you go. All right. Well, that basically finishes our demonstration. So hopefully you found that interesting and somewhat helpful at the same time. Now, I could publish this up to Azure, and because I changed that setting, if I went to the URI from Azure, I could go to Swagger and use the same interface there. And the beauty of that then is my Maui application, if it's up in Swagger, okay, I can actually access it just through the URI, and away you go.